Hello, everyone joining. We're going to wait a few minutes to get a few more people on. So just hang tight. Just about 30 seconds. It's right at 11 o'clock. So we'll wait a little bit longer and then we'll get started. Hello, everyone. All righty, we're going to go ahead and get started. I am Sarah. Welcome to On the Horizon. I am so happy to be back. I know Tiffany, we did Botswana last month and Tiffany was on that one, but I'm so happy to be here talking about Croatia. It has been on the top of my bucket list. I have never been, so I am extremely excited to learn more and hopefully travel there soon. So today we are joined by our destination specialist Tess. She traveled there in 2019. And then we are joined by our partner on the ground in Croatia, Zvonimir. He is, we work closely with him. So if you've traveled with us to Croatia, you probably know him well. We're so grateful to have you on. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sarah.
So I think, Croatia is kind of a funny thing. I feel like not many people knew about it. Maybe before the pandemic, we didn't get a lot of requests for it. And then because of the way they've handled the pandemic and just allowing tourists in there and keeping them safe and comfortable. I mean, the people that we've sent there have had resounding reviews, partly in your part because y'all are amazing. And just the partnership is amazing, but Croatia itself is just a jewel. So I think I'm just excited to kind of share with the world what we love about it. So Tess, before we get started, will you tell us a little bit about your experience there when you traveled there in 2019 and just Croatia in general, your overall first impressions of it and why you love it?
Yeah, absolutely. I had been dreaming of going to Croatia for so long. And it was, after I'd done all this research for some clients and I was just like, oh my God, there's so many experiences to have there. So when I finally got there, it was just mind blowing. I mean, we started in Zagreb, but made our way all the way out to the coast and all the way down south. So we really got to see a good viewing of mostly of the whole country. And it's just, I mean, you see from the pictures, obviously, they're, all Instagram worthy. And it really looks like that in real life, if not better. So it's pretty spectacular. And the people are just so warm and welcoming. Everybody speaks great English. And so it's super easy to communicate with people. The food was unbelievably delicious in every place we went. There's just such a mix of cultures that really influenced the food in every region, and you'll hear more about that probably a little later. And yeah, there's just so many wonderful outdoor experiences to have where history is just, in your face, and you don't have to go inside to see it. It's all around you. So it was really just a really neat experience. It wasn't crowded when we were there. We were end of March, early April, and we had great weather. And it was definitely nice because there weren't a ton of tourists there at that time. So we really kind of felt like we had the cities to ourselves a few times. So that was really neat. And yeah, I love talking about Croatia and getting excited with people to visit.
I love that you said you don't have to go inside to see it can be an outdoor destination. I love that.
Totally.
Yeah. Clearly you can see from the picture. So Z, tell us a little bit about the history, just a tad, and then geography in general about the major cities and the regions as Croatia is sort of laid out.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Tess, for sharing your passion for Croatia. Yeah, so Croatia, it's very well located in terms of, It can be great for a standalone destination, but it can also be done as a multi-country destination. So if you go a little bit back in history, Croatia used to be part of Yugoslavia. So the Slovenia, Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, all these countries used to be under one umbrella called Yugoslavia. Then in early 90s, when the Homeland War unfortunately happened, all these countries actually split it apart. If you go back into history, like Tess said, Croatia used to, be under Austro-Hungarians. It used to be under influence of Italians, Romans. So all that left a huge, huge influence on the country in general. But what's really fun about it is that different regions were even influenced by different countries at the same time. So basically, as you travel, from example, from Zagreb to Pula, as we see it on the map, you will see totally two different, cultures, totally two different setups of the country. And as well, if you go down south to Dubrovnik, like that's Dalmatia, totally different, than upper part north, like Zagreb. And you will see those differences not only in food, like Tess said, but in architecture, even in the way the people speak and talk. So pretty much we have many different regions that are totally different. So, if somebody asks, what's a most interesting part of Croatia, I definitely think it's the diversity it has. Also, it's great on food and wine, from truffles in Eastern region. Actually, Croatia is holding the Guinness World Record for founding the biggest and the toughest truffle ever in the world. And also for the great olive oil. So that's why we go into Israel. If you go down to Dalmatia, it's totally different Dalmatian feel of food, more Italian influence as well. But besides food and wine, what's really interesting about Croatia, like Tess said, is outdoorsy activities. So we have mountains, we have rivers, we have the sea. So, basically from sailing activities, rafting, kayaking, all that, it's really interesting to see. Also, Croatia, like I said, it was influenced and it has a rich history. We have 10 UNESCO sites that are under the protection of UNESCO. So all that because of the rich history. It has 8 national parks. This is one of the national parks right in front of you guys here on this presentation. It's called Plitvice Lakes. And this is actually one of the parks that is under the UNESCO protection site. It's absolutely stunning, as you can see. It's actually 16 interconnected lakes with this gorgeous waterfalls. And Tess, you saw it in March, but if you go in summer, it looks different. Yeah, if you go in summer, it looks different. If you go in winter, it looks different. If you go in fall, it looks like this. So, every season it's different. So it's really cool destination and spot to actually go. And one of the things not to be missed in Croatia.
Well, so speak a little bit, you mentioned it a little bit, but like, what are the seasons of Croatia? And when is I know there's probably something to offer for every season you go there, but speak to us a little bit about, when it's a little bit hotter or colder and how cold does it get?
Yeah, so definitely I think that Croatia is, since it's outdoor activity and majority of the activities will happen in Dalmatian coast. And it opens you the opportunity to do anything, the yachting, the island hopping, swimming, and so on and so forth. I think that a good time to travel is anywhere between end of April all up until mid-October. If the main interest, it's not Dalmatian and sea activities, it can really be a year-round destination. However, most of the time and most of the season, it's happening between end of April until mid-October, unless you're going on a Christmas market, which is great in Zagreb. And Zagreb was actually named to be top and the best Christmas market in Europe for the past 4 years.
So oh my gosh, sign me up.
So it's not, yeah, so it's not that well known because everybody's speaking about, the German and Austrians Christmas markets. But let me tell you, Zagreb, it's following up right there.
Ah, cool. So is it open? Is it open this year?
Last year it was open, but on very limited operations because of the COVID. But this year they're actually planning to have it in full swing.
Ah, that's awesome to know.
So cool.
Okay, so you let me make sure that mentioned Dalmatia. So
Mhm.
in these national parks, is it hiking or what do you do? Like, how do you get to experience the national parks? I know on the waterways, we're going to talk about private yachts and catamarans in a
Mhm.
minute,
Mhm.
but is it taking a vehicle and going into the national parks, or how
So
do
it
you?
depends, as I said, we have 8 of them. One, it's Plitvice Lakes National Park, so it's pretty much hiking around the falls.
Okay.
Another one, it's Kornati Islands, which is outside of Zadar, where you need to take a private boat and you go out. It actually consists of 116 little islands and islets out on the water. Then we have 2 national parks that are in mountainous regions. So those are the ones where you would definitely go hiking. Then we have one that is in Slavonia region, which is very famous for the bird watching. So every of this national park has its own soul and different offerings, but definitely all of them will require, some hiking, walking, except the Kornati National Park, which you actually have to reach by the private boat and go out from
Mm,
Zadar to reach it.
that's awesome. So Tess, you mentioned a little bit about your trip in the beginning, but speak a little bit more in detail about like how many days you were there and the cities that you saw, if that makes sense. And when did you go? I think you mentioned March or April.
We were there April 30th, so last
Okay.
day of April until May 10th. And we started in Zagreb. And so we started, do you want to show the map? Maybe that will help. I'll just give
Yeah,
like a
I'd
quick
love to go
outline
back
of
to the map. Yep.
where we went. So, yeah, we started in Zagreb, which is the capital. It's kind of right there in the central north region there. So that's definitely a more of an urban setting. And then from there, we went kind of south, I guess. Plitvice is not listed on this map here, but it's just about south, a little bit south, tiny west, right, Z, of Zagreb. If you went kind
Yeah,
of straight down into the left a little bit.
yeah.
So we went down there and spent a night in a tree house, which was incredible and really a unique and special stay. And then the next day we got to see the lakes and or at the waterfalls at Plitvice Lake, and we had just an incredible tour there. And then from there we went on to Rovin in Istria, which is on the coast, just all the way to the left where you see the little Pula symbol there. That's Rovin. That's the region there, which is famous for truffles and just it was an incredibly beautiful. I'm going to keep saying that over and over again because the whole country is beautiful, but it was just a really neat seaside harbor town that we got to visit, and lots of rich history there. And there we stayed at Monte Molini, which is a gorgeous 5-star property, super accessible to get into town. I think it was about 5-10 minute drive. And the views are just gorgeous. You can see the city of Rovin, just across the waterway there, and it looks stunning. And then from there, we went down to Zadar, which you'll see is just south along the coast, another great seaside town. And from there, we went on to Split, where we spent a couple of nights and got to do a day trip over to the island of Hvar, which is famous for lavender and olive oil and wine. And then from Split, we went down and we actually stopped in Mostar, which is part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And it was a really neat experience to have. It almost felt like we were in a different country. Well, we were in a different country, but in a different part of the world, because the influence there is very Mediterranean, I guess, Turkish. We had a really delicious Turkish lunch. And there's a big Muslim influence there as well, population. And so then from Mostar, we went on to Dubrovnik and spent our last couple nights there. And Dubrovnik is kind of that city that everybody knows about, at least in the States. It's kind of the most famous place in Croatia from our point of view, I think. Of course, Game of Thrones has made it very popular. And it is just as incredible as it looks in photos with the walled city. There's no car traffic within the walls, so it's a completely pedestrian walking city, which is really cool and fun to experience because we don't really have that here in the States. So yeah, it was really a full picture of the entire country. I think at least for those 10 days that we had there, we really got a nice glimpse of all the different parts that Croatia has to offer. And we even got to take a day trip to Kotor in Montenegro to see, you know, the town down there, and another walled city, of course, much smaller than Dubrovnik. But yeah, it was just really interesting to see all the differences, as Z said, throughout the country. There's just so many different influences that your guides will point out, the historical references in terms of architecture. You know, you'll see lions at all the gates in the cities, and some of them have their paw in a different position. So they'll tell you all these different little stories about that and why that's unique to that area, and why the, you know, the windows are shaped the way they are. And it's just living history, really. And the guides really bring it to life for you. So I think that was one of the biggest things for me, was, you know, having our guides with us throughout the entire trip. And we drove the whole time. Our guide, you know, drove us from all the way from Zagreb down to Dubrovnik. So it was a big road trip, and the roads are incredible there, really great infrastructure. Everything is immaculate. Every city is super clean. They don't litter. They love their coffee and their wine. And yeah, it was really a delight.
Yeah, what were a few of the properties that you stayed at that you really loved?
So the Monte Molini in Rovinj, yep, was probably one of my favorites. I'm not sure. I think we had a picture of it just a few minutes ago. Again, it's a 5-star property located just outside of the town of Rovinj. And then there's another property that we got to see that had just opened up, the hotel park, right, Z, I believe. Oh, you're muted, Z.
Yeah, the park was another property that just opened up, the sister property of Monte Molini.
Yes, it's absolutely stunning. A bit more contemporary style. I'd say Monte Molini is a little bit more traditional 5-star. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the park is going to be a little bit more modern. And of course, in Zagreb, where we started with the Esplanade, which is kind of the Grand Dame hotel of Zagreb and of Croatia, really. And where else do we stay? Of course, the treehouse stay in the Plitvice Lakes was incredible. They have a lot of different types of accommodations at that place. They have the tree houses, they have teepees, they have, what else were there? I think they're kind of like standalone, what are those called? The standalone rooms that were right outside the pool. There's a couple of different options that you can stay in within the park, I guess. In addition to the treehouse stay. So it was really unique.
Like a chalet, like a lighthouse.
Yes, thank you. Yep, and then in Split, we stayed at the park, the hotel park, which is also a 5-star property. Also, I'd say more traditional style, but there are some properties in town that are walkable within the city. The park is probably about a 10-minute walk into downtown Split. And then in Dubrovnik, we stayed at the Royal Blue, which had amazing views of the sea from your balcony. I would leave my sliding door open so I could hear the water at night. The waves are crashing on the shore, like right outside your room. It's just a really special place to be able to unwind at the end of the day.
Well, it sounds lovely. I am looking at this picture that's on your screen, and I want to be sitting in one of those chairs right about now,
Right?
instead of in my home. It sounds amazing. Well, and I love that you can do it in 10 days. And I think that that's typically when Americans travel on a trip like this, 10 days is a good amount of time when they're taking just a big trip like this. So you can literally see all of Croatia and go back and spend more time in 10 days and get a little piece of it. That's amazing. So speak to us, see a little bit about via tours and some of the things that y'all offer, what's going on in terms of the pandemic and how y'all been operating. And then also speak to us a little bit, we didn't touch on it much because we were saving it for the end. And we have an itinerary that includes some of the private yachts and charters, but speak a little bit about what y'all offer in terms of that too, because I know some of the best way to experience Croatia is from the water. So speak to us a little bit about what's going on in Croatia at the moment.
Okay, so let's start with the COVID first. Croatia, like you said at the beginning, let's get the worst out of the way. So in the COVID time, a lot of things changed in Croatia, right? And I think actually for the better. Croatia was before a lot into, mass tourism and so on and so forth. But with COVID, I think Croatia turned the sides a little bit and focused more on more quality guests than the mass tourism, which is, what you guys are pretty good at. So pretty much selling high service luxury trips. There's been a lot of new 5-star properties, a lot of new yachts and mega yachts arrived to Croatia in the past 2 years. And we've seen the biggest increase in private jets coming to Croatia last year during the lockdowns even, and this year as well. So I think Croatia is developing in the right direction. So that's introduction into the product updates. Definitely, like Tess said, there is a hotel park next to Monte Molini in Istria. There are like 10 to 15 new 5-star properties opened up in the past 2 years since Tess left the country, and there are many more actually planned to be opened up in the future too. So I think definitely for luxury clients looking for extraordinary experiences, that is a lot to offer. Also, as far as our offerings, we did a lot of things to try to offer to our partners like yourself something that it's not that easy to book on their own, or it's even impossible to do it. So for example, one of our coolest things that we did is we privatize part of the city walls in Dubrovnik, one of the fortresses. And what we do is we cooperate with the local cooking school. So they bring their local Michelin star chef on there, and he basically does a private dinner overlooking the island during the sunset for our guests on the city walls. So you're not going
amazing.
Yeah, so you're not going to a restaurant, you're going literally to UNESCO site where Game of Thrones was filmed, where it's not possible to do it on your own, and you pretty much have private dinner with a Michelin star chef. We bring the live music and so on, so it's a really good experience. Also, in the past year, we have a lot of helicopter and private jet tours around Croatia. So like you said, 10 days, it's enough to see it all. Yes, but if you want to see all the spots, it's a little bit rushy. However, with a helicopter or a private jet, easily you can go from, Dubrovnik today and Istria region tomorrow, and you can be eating, the truffles in Istria in just shorter than 1 hour. And the scenic ride over the islands is just amazing. Like I said, Croatia has 1,200 islands in total. And like you said, one of the nicest and best things to do is definitely the sea and land combination. That's when we come to the private yacht charters. They're on the next slide. And what we charter and what the biggest differences are, of course, it depends on the budget and the type of travel, the length of the stay, and so forth. But we can charter the catamarans, which you will see on the top left corner. We can charter so-called sailing yachts or goulettes, which you can see on the down left corner, regular motor yachts that you can see on the upper right corner, or the super yachts on the down right corner. So all these type of boats are possible to charter in Croatia for different budgets, different style of the trips. Usually the catamarans and the sailing yachts, goulettes, are for the slower paced itinerary, and they can only be chartered for a week long. The good thing is that they come always fully crewed, with a chef, with a hostess, with a captain, and a lot of water toys. So great for families, great for couple families, maybe with kids traveling together. So it can be just a very fun trip out on the water. But they're kind of slower because they are not fast yachts. So we always need to take into account that the pace of itinerary with these yachts is more relaxed and laid back. Now, when we go to the yachts and motor yachts, of course, motor yachts and super yachts are much higher in price, but they can go by daily rate. So you can pretty much charter it for a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. It doesn't matter when, but they always will come crew. They're much faster. So you can pretty much go throughout whole Croatia with this yacht in 7 days because it's quite quick. Also comes fully crewed with water toys, but the price tag of these boats it's much higher. But definitely for somebody who is looking for a trip without compromises, motor yachts would definitely be the most enjoyable way of traveling to Croatia. So pretty much any of these boats will work for any of your sea and land itineraries that you have on your website. It will just depend on type of travel, what is important for on the boat. Is it comfort? Is it water toys? How many cabins, and so on and so forth. And once we know that, we can always suggest which type of the vessel is the best for certain clients.
Right, and I went ahead and put up one of the itineraries we have on our website right now. And before I go into that, I just want to say we do have these itineraries up there, but everything we do is custom. So if you wanted to add more days in certain areas, and we haven't talked about this yet, but combine countries, because Croatia is so accessible to other countries located next to it and around. It's right across from Italy. I mean, it's really such an accessible country. We could do that too. So these are just really to give you an idea of, places to start and that. So this is just an 11-day itinerary, which includes a private yacht. And then speak to us a little bit about how easy it is and some other countries that you can combine with Croatia. Let's say you had more than 10 days, you wanted to do Slovenia or even Italy, or what are some popular places people like to combine with Croatia?
So I think that, it will definitely depend on the client's interests, for example. If the clients are active and into soft adventure, combination of Croatia and Slovenia is definitely, the best of the region. If you are into history, then we would definitely combine Croatia and Bosnia. Also, if people are for more off the beaten path destination, then we would combine it with Albania and maybe Montenegro. So all will depend definitely on what the client is looking for in a trip. But all these countries, like I said previously, were one country before called Yugoslavia. So traveling between those destinations, it's fairly easy. And even in a short amount of time, even if it's 10 days, you don't really have to see every single city. You can still combine two destinations in one trip. But one of our most common is either Slovenia and Croatia or Montenegro and Croatia. Those are, I would say, one of our top selling combinations of the trips.
I wanted to jump in here real quick. One of the cool things that you can do also is take a ferry, a fast ferry between Venice and the Rovian, or not Rovian specifically, but the Istria region. There are several stops
Yeah,
that
you were right. That's
are cities
to
that you
Ravine.
can,
It goes
yeah,
directly
take.
to Ravine. So yeah, you're correct.
Yep. And so that's a really neat option for, I know a lot of ocean cruises will start or end in Venice. And of course, there's been a lot of cruises going through Croatia as well. But if you have clients who are, or guests who are interested in doing an Italy tour and then want to pop over to Croatia or vice versa, that's a really great connection to make because the flights can be a little bit tricky. So, by either driving around to Italy or taking that fast ferry over to Venice, it makes it really combinable and doable. And it's not a super long ferry ride. I believe it's just under 4 hours or about that. So yeah, it's a great way to combine Italy and Croatia together.
Cool. Okay, so if I've missed anything, please feel free to add, but I do want to end with this one question. So talk to us about what is the benefit of traveling to Croatia right now in this moment? I feel like y'all probably had a steady stream of travelers since the pandemic. Some countries have completely shut down, but there are amazing benefits if people feel comfortable enough to take their international trip into Croatia. What are some of the things that they would likely not be able to experience maybe pre-pandemic that they can experience right now in terms of crowd levels and just the overall sense of getting feeling Croatia for what it is. I just want to make sure people because like for instance some people have I want to speak to the people that are nervous about traveling and not maybe getting the full experience because of COVID. So that's really where I'm headed with that.
Yeah, I mean, Croatia really handled, the COVID well. Pretty much all tourist attractions are fairly open. There is no closures. The only limitations they will experience really it's on a clubbing scene where the clubs are only open till 12 o'clock and then they close out. So nothing works pretty much after 12, even restaurants. That is the only limitation. Everything else, it's fairly open. And you said it well. Croatia was one of the few countries opened, and the crowds were little. And we really had a conversation in the office that who didn't have fear to travel during these COVID times really experienced Croatia in a fairly different way. Because if you go to Dubrovnik, for example, when it's normal times, you will see 5-6 big cruise ships there. It's crowded. You see huge lines getting into the old town, and this doesn't happen anymore. It's totally different world now. And I just think that with less crowds, people are not as nervous. They can really take care of every client that arrives. And I just think that service overall, it's much better now than it was before the COVID time.
Right. I mean, it's been like resounding the number of people that we've had that are nervous to travel and then they travel and they're like, what was I nervous about? And then they've since taken 2 and 3 more trips because once you get that first one under your belt, I think it makes it a little bit easier. So I just, I feel like Croatia is the same way. And we have lots of people that was like, what? They'll Google what is open. And it's like Croatia at the time was one of the only ones. And several people of our clients went there because of that and had an amazing time. So, that was just good for y'all in the tourism industry as well. Okay, so do y'all have anything else to add that you think our viewers might want to know? Did I miss anything?
Well, I think we did a great job, showcasing overall, what Croatia all has to offer. And, it's every time it's the same question, they've been like, who is Croatia really for? And I really think that there is really something for everybody in Croatia to find their own interest and have an amazing time.
Right. I totally agree.
If we have any questions, I'll tell you all about it.
yeah, call us. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in. If not, we'll wrap it up. But I do want to throw up 3 ways to connect with us. Obviously, call us. I put Tess's email directly on the screen, so you're welcome to contact her. You can contact me or send us an email. And then we're on all your social channels as well. So feel free to follow us. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Other than that, I don't see any at the moment. That's okay. Okay. Well, Z, thanks for joining us. I'm like, I want to go now. You'll see me over there in the next year.
Just let me know when, and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you
I
so
will
much
be back
joining
for
us.
sure.
Yeah, Tess, thanks
Yes,
for
we're
joining us
waiting.
as well. And thank y'all all out there for joining us. We will talk to y'all later. Oh, and feel free to join us for the next one. It'll be, we're going to be talking about Iceland. So in a month's time, and I'll look out for more about that as well. Z, thank you so much for joining us.
Not a problem, and thank you, Sarah and Tess, for having me.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Z. Thanks, Sarah.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.